So there's a common saying, one that I'm sure we've all heard many times before, which is that ignorance is bliss. Meaning that the more knowledge, information, and wisdom that we have sometimes, the more that it's a detriment to us because we overanalyze all of these details to the point where it's actually causing us a lot of suffering. And so in a lot of cases, the less we know, the more ignorant we are, which doesn't always have to be a term of judgment or a term of ridicule. Essentially, ignorance at its most basic definition just means a lack of knowledge, to not know. So we're all ignorant to many things, actually, when it comes to this world. But what I found interesting when I thought about it is that in many ways, what meditation is bliss without the ignorance. Because whether it's information, knowledge, wisdom, many of it is just rooted in thinking and thoughts, just like everything else. And so when we learn to separate that thinking from who we really are or what's actually happening in this present moment, the more we can learn to appreciate what's going on in front of us without having to be burdened by this constant weight of everything that's happening. Obviously, we have a new president that many people are talking about. There's so many things happening in our personal life. There's always something happening in the economy. So there's always going to be chatter. There's always going to be things that just stress us out. And the more we learn to disconnect from that thinking that's causing us a lot of anxiety, the happier it is that we're going to be able to be. Yeah, we're going to still have that same level of information pop up, but we're not constantly going to obsess over it. We're not constantly going to grab it and cling on to it and hold it. We're going to be able to let it go in a way that will allow us to function in our everyday life. Now, this isn't a political conversation. Whoever you vote for is who you vote for. I happen to be one of those people that really thinks that politics is obviously just a two-winged bird or a two-headed snake, and it's always feeding the same body. It seems to have been the case as long as I've been involved in paying attention to politics, and this is something I've heard from many people who have been involved much longer than me, so it's obviously nothing new. But the reality is, if you are maybe dealing with somebody who has a different political ideology than you, it's very easy to start attaching different things about that person that you assume that they are, or you think that they're contributing to a certain type of problem. And so the more you just go down that rabbit hole, the more you may be stressed, angry, the more it's going to affect your day, the more it's going to affect your life. But if you're able to disconnect and just understand, okay, that's interesting, I just had this thought about this person, I'm just going to let it come and go and just focus on what it is that I'm doing right now, instead of being so attached to it, instead of feeling like you have to own that thought. The easier it is for you to operate in life, the easier it is to just put down the rocks of all of that weight that we're carrying in order to live a more blissful life. And so that's what I think meditation brings to the table. It brings bliss without ignorance. It brings bliss with knowledge, where we can do two things at the same time. We can understand what's going on in the world around us. We could hear things that are troubling to us that we wish we didn't know. But the nature of this world, sometimes it's important to be informed about certain aspects, and we could take that information without taking everything that comes with it. So it's an opportunity to detach from the things that can really stress us out, because a lot of times it seems like, what we could all benefit from is just something that will knock us over the head and give us amnesia so we could forget all the things that trouble us and we could function in this world as a happy person. I look at my dog sleeping sometimes, and you guys have probably seen this too. Like, a dog sleeps with no problems, no worries, no issues at all. They could sleep under any circumstances. They'll just lay down wherever they're at and they're good to go. Whereas us as people, we have such a hard time sleeping because we're just constantly troubled by what it is that we're thinking about. It may not even be the present moment. And of course, I'm not going to dismiss people who are going through something very extreme, because I've been in those shoes and I know what it's like, and it's very difficult. But in a more generalized way, we're just thinking about little troubles and little anxieties that are stopping us from sleeping, or we're thinking about the ambitions of tomorrow or next week that force us to wake up very early in the morning. And if we could just forget about a lot of those things, we would be passing out, sleeping 8 hours a night too, without a worry in the world. So we don't have to always make these compromises of needing to have our minds wiped in order to live a peaceful, happy, content life. What we just have to practice is detaching ourselves from those things that are constantly giving us unnecessary worry. Many of those things that don't even actually exist or may never actually happen. If we're watching the news, if we're watching many other programs, 99% of it is speculation. 99% of it is saying what if, and then going down that rabbit hole, and then people living as if the what if is the actual reality. So I'm not saying how anybody should approach these different types of scenarios, because the truth of the matter is we need people who choose to approach these scenarios in many different type of ways. There is no one shoe fits all for everybody. Some people are going to be frontline warriors. Some people are going to love to debate the minutiae of every little activity. But for the majority of people who have no direct skin in the game, no way of budging the needle, but are still carrying the weight of that burden, we just need to understand that we can have these thoughts without holding these thoughts, and we can still find a way to be happy and peaceful while maintaining the information and knowledge that we have. So ignorance isn't the only way to bliss. Meditation is a nice route as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your comments, and I'll talk to you next time.